This punched me in the gut. A couple of years ago now, I was watching a movie called Westside versus the World on, I guess it was Amazon Prime, doesn't matter where it was, but it was about the world famous Westside Powerlifting Club / team headed by powerlifting super coach Louie Simmons. Hey, it's Jeff Newbert from ChasingStrength.com. And one of the things that caught my attention about this documentary was the lifters' relentless dedication to their lifting above all else, even to the detriment of all else. I could totally relate because, and honestly, I'm not proud of this, but for the first 10 years of my marriage or so, my lifting took priority to everything else. And it actually got to the point where my wife and I only ate dinner together on the weekends. Weekdays, I was working, training clients, usually from 5:45, 6:30 in the morning till 7:30 at night. And then I'd either train in a warehouse that had my platform or with my training partner over at the UNC Strength and Conditioning Facility. And I'd get home between 9 and 10 p.m. at night. I'd just wake up and do that again 5 to 6 days a week. Now, we had our first child, our son, back in 2011, and all of that changed. My training was mostly sandwiched around family life as a result. But every so often, and I don't know if this has ever happened to you, I find my mind drifting back into what I call obsession mode, right? Where I start dreaming about maximal, how things could be if only. If I stay there in obsession mode, my training sessions start to take a little longer than they should, and they start infringing upon family time. So they find the edges and they test my own personal boundaries. Now, back to the documentary. At one point in this movie, they're interviewing a guy who's long since left Westside, and he's reliving his glory days as so many of us this age tend to do, right? He's talking about the lifts he made, the camaraderie he had with his training partners, the competitions. But then in an instant, his mood darkens, his smile drops, and tears start to fill his eyes. He talks about how his son was a great swimmer, but this guy, he never made it to any of his son's meets. Not even one. Not even his son's senior year when he competed in the state championships. And that's because Saturday was bench press day. I'm paraphrasing, right? Maybe it was Wednesday night. I don't know. And that punched me in the gut because I recognized that tendency in myself. So you know what I did? I turned off the TV and had a literal come to Jesus moment. I vowed, and admittedly for an ex-jock, this is hard to maintain, only to train in such a way to add energy and value to my family and not detract from our relationships. All right. So no more bleeding into dinner time with, extended workouts, no more training when the kids are around, but only when they're either doing homework or they're at practice, things like that. So it's been tough, but I have switched the mindset here from Captain Hardcore mode to only using exercises and using training programs which give me energy. Okay, so that's the key point. Give me energy. I can no longer afford to wake up tired or sore because sometimes, I like to push myself from my training sessions. So do I still train to be strong? Absolutely. Do I still train to remain lean? Of course. And do I still train hard? For sure, when it's appropriate. And honestly, what does that look like? Well, for me and guys that I train, that's funny, I was just talking to a client last night about this, right? Typically, it's about a 7-day window every month. So you get like 1 to 3 good hard training sessions a month. That's about what an average over 50 guy's body can tolerate. Okay, so that's what I mean by appropriate. But here is kind of the punchline. Most of all, I train to remain what I call capable. So I'm able to do anything that I want to do when I'm able to do it, and especially when it comes to my kids and my wife, right? Essentially, it's being there for them. So what does that look like for me? As a result, I typically train 3 to 5 days a week, always a minimum of 3 days. So for example, double kettlebell clean and press for 5 sets of 2 with a 4RM, right? Followed by chins, 2, 4, 6 ladders for 2 ladders done in 25 minutes. That's an example of a recent training session. That's number 1. Number 2, I always prioritize my weaknesses when and if necessary. I may have showed you this elbow that doesn't fully straighten or bend. Okay, if you compare that to the other side, that's what it looks like. As a result, the arthur, as I like to call it, feels like it's starting to creep in on that elbow. So I've been directly addressing it. And as a result, I'm doing specific exercises to keep the arthur away in that elbow. All right, so that's what I mean by prioritizing weaknesses when and if necessary. And point number 3, I always do some kind of restoration work to make sure I keep the aches pains away and move fluidly like I did before I accumulated all my injuries from sports. And so typically that's 10, 15, sometimes even 20 minutes a day. Now, this mindset, this philosophy, it empowers me to be fully present with my kids, which at this point in my life is arguably one of the most important things, right? Obviously, besides my marriage. So, for example, I recently traveled with my son and we were gone for a full week. Okay, I had no problem sleeping in a strange bed, maintaining a strange schedule, and eating foods that were a little out of the necessary. A little out of the necessary? Yeah, I think that's right. I mean, because it's not necessary to eat a lot of cheeseburgers and milkshakes, right? As a result of that, right, we just keep bonding and building our relationship, and that just keeps getting stronger and stronger and stronger, which for my son, who's 14, he'll be 15 pretty soon, in like 5 months as I film this, okay? That's great, because if you have had teenagers, you know the trend is that parents and teens tend to drift further away from each other as the kid becomes a teenager. Okay, so I'm super stoked about that. So look, if your workout or your training programs, whatever you want to call them, demand more energy from you than they give, and they take more time from you than they should, I suggest that you are actually serving them instead of them serving you. I don't know about you, but I don't want to be estranged from my kids when they're older, because my dreams of glory, right, personal glory, whatever that looks like, were more important to me than them. So if you need to change things up to align your priorities, right, with your workouts, vice versa, here are 3 strategies you can use today. You can implement them as soon as you get off this video, right? Number 1, train for power and maximum strength intelligently, and all that conditioning that you think you need, right, will take care of itself. Number 2, if you're banged up, you need to fix some things and are tired of aching all the time, well, slow it down. Spend some time fixing yourself. And number 3, if you're healthy, but you have limited time to train, but still want to push yourself a little bit, use challenging, time-efficient workout structures like complexes and chains. I'll leave links to programs for each of those 3 strategies in the video description below if you need help putting a plan together yourself, so you can see measurable, like in the pants, in the workout log, right, in the mirror type of progress. Okay, if you found this video helpful, and I hope you did, click the like button, smash the subscribe button, share it with a friend, family member, even an old training partner you know who is still trying to balance out the glory days with training and family life. Finally, leave me a comment in the comment section below. Have you struggled with this? And if so, have you overcome it yet? And if so, what'd you do to overcome it? Right? Until next time, my friend, stay strong.